Hey guys, Andy here. One of the most popular actual articles that I wrote on Hemodroids was the Beginner's Guide to Android. So I figured, why not try and make it into a video? So here I go. If you have new friends or just family members or anyone that's new to Android, you might want to put them towards this video. I'll try and talk them through Android and what it's about really. I'm going to start off briefly with a bit of history. Google bought Android back in 2005. The first release was September of 2008. So it is actually quite an old operating system, but has been through many different iterations. And if I give you some ideas, I think the first version I knew was 1.5, which is called Cupcake. All the versions of Android are named after desserts, and they go alphabetically. I'm not actually sure what A and B were. Let us know in the comments if you know. But C was the Cupcake, 1.6 was Donut. Then it jumped in quite a significant upgrade to version 2, which was Eclair. 2.1 was also Eclair, that was October of 2009, so it was moving pretty quickly at this point. Then Froyo came along at 2.2, that was May 2010. Then in December 2010 was Gingerbread, that was version 2.3. Version 3.0 came next in February 2011, so only 2 months after Gingerbread. But that was Honeycomb, was only for tablets, but it was a pretty massive UI overhaul and does give us similar to what we look at now. But then we had to wait all the way till October 2010 for Ice Cream Sandwich. Now Ice Cream Sandwich is where I think Android really hit its stride and started becoming kind of mainstream popular operating system. It started to look quite nice. A lot of the visuals that we see now came in Ice Cream Sandwich. Then it wasn't until July 2012, so last summer, that Jelly Bean was released. That's version 4.1. Version 4.2 is also Jelly Bean, so it's not always a different point or a different whatever is the new version. And let me just check real quickly for you what the breakdown of the versions is at the moment. So Gingerbread is still the most commonly installed version, and that has 45% right now. Honeycomb, very small slice. Ice Cream Sandwich is up to 29% of the share, and Jelly Bean is up to 13, almost 14% as of February the 4th, so only a couple of days ago. But obviously you may be watching this video half a year's time or goodness knows what, and things might be very different. Now, one of the things that a lot of iOS users say is their advantage is that they get their updates pushed all at the same time. Everybody has the update and everyone's happy. Whereas on Android, is your phone up to standard? Is it good enough? Can it run the update? You have to wait for carriers. There are hoops that need to be jumped through. Not normally enforced by Google. Google quite often will just, right, there's the code, off you go. But then you have people like HTC, Samsung, Sony, who will want to adjust the code to suit themselves, put their own skin on it, and unfortunately that does slow it all down. So just bear in mind, it's not always Google's fault, it's normally the manufacturer or the carrier, especially the US. Anyone watching from the US, I know that they like to put their own software on. I know that Orange like to over here in the UK, and again, that just slows it all down, unfortunately. So Google throw it out there. Samsung perhaps slow it down initially, then the carriers want to put their own stuff on top of that, and that is what causes delays, and it does really annoy some people, and I can understand why. Right now I wouldn't buy anything that didn't have at least Ice Cream Sandwich on though. The upgrades from Ice Cream Sandwich are relatively incremental, even to Jelly Bean I would argue. But ICS, as it's known, did bring a great graphical improvement. So, a lot of talk so far. Let's start looking through the actual operating system. Okay, so we're looking at the home screen. This is known as the home screen. The picture behind it, that's my wallpaper. In this, I've switched back to TouchWiz. This is Samsung's own launcher. So the launcher is what sits on top of the operating system and works as kind of a go-between from your thumb to the phone. So that's the launcher. The launcher is made up of the home screens, which you can kind of see as almost like glass panels in this instance, sliding in and out. They're pretty empty, so that one's got an icon on it and a search bar. Obviously they're called icons, nice and simple, or shortcuts I suppose, sorry, they're called. This up here is actually a widget. Now widgets are sort of little indicators. They can be active, they can be changing all the time. This one's a static one, it's simply a search bar. So when I tap on it, it loads up, it loads up my Google search. Now in Jelly Bean 4 onwards, my Google search is pretty much what's called Google Now, and it tries to tell me stuff about what I might want to know, like my weather and things like that. Now I can very easily add widgets. I've held down there on the screen, add to home screen, apps and widgets, or a folder, or I can change the wallpaper. So if I say let's change the wallpaper for the home screen. Now quite often, again, I'm not sure, you maybe don't get this in iOS, but now it's asking me, okay, well, where do you want to get the information from? So I've got 2 cameras installed, that's why I've got 2 different galleries, or it's got pre-built wallpapers, or it's got live wallpapers. So let's take a look at the live wallpapers. Live wallpapers you can download from Google Play, which we shall come to soon. And live wallpapers, as you can see, are moving. Quite often you get settings, so you can change jellyfish size, number of jellyfish, background bright. Well, that's right. Let's turn background brightness, background lighting, change background color. Stick with that. Okay, jellyfish color. Interesting. That's why I want a darker jellyfish. There we go. So, is that darker? Oh, let's drop the lighting out a bit as well. Is it darker? I guess it is. So, set wallpaper. I quite like that actually. Oh, it's even giving me some instructions. Quite often you get this when you. So I've just put the original launcher back into place, and quite often it will give you instructions as you go along. Yeah, I'm good with that though, thanks. So, as you can see now, my wallpaper is moving. See that sort of speck? A lot of the time it's only subtle, and the best ones generally, to be honest, are subtle. I find if you have something that's whizzing about the place, or it's, for me, if there's loads of stuff going on, it just distracts you from what's actually happening. So let's go back into my a different home screen. Or some of them as well you can interact with. This, not this one. You can kind of tap on things. And anyway, so in this instance, I want to add an app or a widget. And again, it's giving me instructions. I just basically hold down on. So if I want to add, oh look, I can all sorts of things going on with the Samsung versions. Let's not use the motion for now. So I'll hold down, and I just want to drop it right there. Now let's say I want to make some kind of folder that's got all my communication stuff in. I hold down on messaging. I don't know if you can see that. I've got it underneath my thumb there, and I'm going to drop it. Oh, actually, can I? Oh, maybe I can't. Let's just drop it there for now. Maybe I've got to specifically. Okay, my bad. On most that might be a Samsung thing. So I'm going to make a folder called communication. There it is. Look at the top. And now I'm going to drop. Always you can kind of move things around just by holding down on them. I get a little vibration on the phone, which means right, you're good to go. And now when I tap that particular folder, there it is. Tap anywhere on the screen to come back out. Now let's try adding a widget, apps and widgets. So at the top there, look, apps or widgets. So when I go over to widgets, and again it's telling me drag and hold and it will reappear. So let's say I'm doing a weather widget, so I'll hold down on that. Now you can see it kind of gives me a shadow of where it's going to drop the widget. Quite often this happens, so you drop a widget and say, okay, tell me what you want the widget to do. Now in this instance I know I just need to select the location. I can then tap add widget. Press and hold back key to show the Model 2 window tray. That's just giving me more instructions, and there's my widget. I can hold down on that and again move it around. If I go over to the side, it's going to swing me over to a different home screen. And there we go. Widgets are particularly handy, like I say, because you can interact with them. They will change what information they're showing to you. So for example, I quite like this one, BBC News Stack widget 3x2. So it tells you how many squares it is, 3x2. Most home screens are 4x4, but you can install a custom launcher which will let you change that to however many, whatever size grid you want. So again, I can see my shadow box where it's going to appear, and again it's asking me, okay, well what stories do you want in this instance on this widget? So I just want to go with the top ones. It's now downloading a bit of information. Now you see how it's got the dots either side of the widget. I can actually stretch it out, make it take up even more space if I like. So that's my BBC News widget, and here's where the interactive bit. How cool is that? Cameron demands further EU cuts. I think to myself, that's a story I need to know about. So I tap on it. Ba-boom! There it is. I can still, I think, yeah, slide between the different stories, which is fine. But yeah, I just think, you know, that to me that's one of the big appeals of Android is you can have interactive widgets. If I want to change the size of it normally, and again, it might be a Samsung thing, it might be a bit different on different launchers. Normally you can tap and hold, slide it around, and there we go. So those are the home screens, widgets, launchers, icons, folders. My app drawer, nice and easy. In this instance, in the bottom right corner, you do have your widgets and apps. I'm going to go back to the apps. These are all listed actually they're not alphabetically when it's a Samsung. If I go to settings, I believe view type, alphabetical grid. There we go. Now it's all alphabetical order. Slide back and forth, tap something to open it, like settings. Job done. Easy. Now along the top I've got a custom theme installed, so it might not be possible for everybody, but I've got the time in the middle. Quite often the time's going to be over on the right hand side. You can also see my battery is gradually dying. Again, this is part of a custom theme. I've got an actual number. You generally need to be rooted to be able to do that. Next to it is the cell signal strength. So that's the actual phone aspect of your phone, and I've got full strength there. Just next to that you see the H and the plus. That's the data aspect. They are two separate things. You can have one without the other. And I'm going to, if I can find my reference point, I'll talk you very quickly through those. Data speeds have changed quite dramatically over the last 5 or 6 years. Initially we used to just have 2G, and you still might find some providers you'll just see a G up there where my H is. It's the slowest connection you get these days. You're not going to have much luck watching videos with a 2G connection. There is an edge connection, so you might see an E. Normally you go from G to 3G, but I think there is an edge connection in between. The top speed you're going to get from that is 470 kilobits a second, as opposed to the top speed of G, which was 60 kilobits per second. But then most people should be getting at least 3G. That's usually what you would expect as a minimum from your provider. You will, if you go into the countryside, you might lose 3G, you might drop down to G occasionally, or you might lose data completely, but you would hope to at least have 3G. As I've got here, H stands for HSDPA, or kind of 3.5G. You would hope with an H connection to get anywhere from sort of 2 megasecond up to 7 megasecond. You might, every now and then it'll pop a plus sign next to my H, which just means it's kind of, well, it's HSDPA plus basically, which is the next step up, which can do up speeds up to 20 megasecond. I mean, basically anything above 3 or 4, you should be good to go with high def videos, streaming, no problem at all. What we're seeing more and more now is LTE. Well, I say more and more, tell a lie. This may only really one from EE at the moment, but there are other providers. Well, there's the H plus lock. There are other providers that are coming along with this. This is kind of the 4G, or LTE stands for long-term evolution. And with that, you can see speeds up over, well, I mean, in theory, you can get up to 150 meg, but with EE, most people are reporting best speeds of around 40 at best. Usually maybe 20 megasecond, but also with very good sort of 10 to 20 meg up speeds. Most times, if you're not aware, most times your download speed will be quite a lot faster than your upload speed, which is generally fine. You're generally consuming rather than providing, uploading. What else? This phone in particular, this is the 8 LTE version of the Galaxy S3. Now, whilst S3 don't have an LTE network just yet, they do allow DC HSDPA, which is dual cell. It means it will connect to 2 different providers at one time. So we've covered the bits on the right side. On the left hand side, you'll see I've got a little mail icon. We access this by getting into the notification bar, and you can see there I've got 2 emails. This is something that's quite new. I forget if it's ice cream sandwich or jelly bean. I can have it like they're just saying 2 new email messages, or if I use both fingers on it, you see how it glows top and bottom, and drag it down. That happens with quite a few of the different things you'll find in your notification bar. You can drag to see more information. If I tap it, it's going to load up my, it'll load straight into my Gmail. Now, all the rest of this stuff, it's not a good advert because you probably won't see that on most most phones. A lot of Samsung phones have a bar at the top there that you can change, turn Wi-Fi on, off, Bluetooth on and off, maybe if you're lucky even a flashlight from your LED flash. So in other words, if I tap Wi-Fi now, come back out, we should see the H disappear. Now it's grey, so that means it's connected to Wi-Fi, but it's not yet connected to Google servers. Any second that should turn blue, I hope. Please turn blue. Maybe not. Maybe I need to open something else that will budge it. Let's open the Play Store. Loading. Unless of course my Wi-Fi at home is broken and my internet connection's not working. There we go. So it's turned blue. So that means I think we'll find that G will vanish any second. There we go. So now it's connected to the internet, to the Google servers, through the Wi-Fi. It's got a good strong signal, full bars. Yeah. They may drop off. I mean, my router's right below my desk, so that's why it's a nice strong signal. So that leads me nicely onto the Google Play Store. You need to have a Google account. If you already have a Gmail account, that's basically the same thing. You need to have logged in. If you try and open the Play Store and you're not logged in, it will basically tell you, please log in. From that point, you can access apps, music, books, magazine, and movies. We're going to look just at apps right now, so I'm going to tap on apps. So it starts off with featured apps. Avocado, just for $2. It has things like staff recommendations, editor's choice, games, and then just other apps that it recommends to you. I mean, it says recommended for you. I don't think they're specifically picked out just for you, unfortunately. It would be nice if someone knew you said, oh, Andy, you like this one. I can slide it right and left and I can see what the top paid apps are, the top free apps, top grossing, top new paid, top new free, and what's trending, so what's really popular right now. I would recommend have a look down through the top free apps because they're free and because they're top ones, they're generally pretty good. Pick out some of the ones you like the news, maybe antivirus. I wouldn't really recommend all that kind of stuff, to be honest. Let's pick one that you might want. So SkyGo, you might want SkyGo as long as you're not rooted. I understand it works pretty good. You tap on it now. You can either add it to your watch list. Look, added to wish list. Sorry, wish list, not watch list. I'll take it back off. Or you tap install. Now, before you go ahead and press accept and download, it's basically telling you here everything that it wants. So it wants permission to access your storage. It needs to connect and disconnect from Wi-Fi, disable your lock screen. It wants to read your phone status and identity. It wants full network access, and it wants to have access to your accounts. And there's a few more underneath there as well. I would recommend always have a quick scan over that. If it's generally one of the top apps, you're normally going to be quite safe. If it's from somebody you know, so this is from BSkyB, I would hope you're quite safe. But that's what those are there for. If you're installing a wallpaper app and it wants to be able to use your phone and be able to send text messages from your phone, you probably don't want to install it. That's going to take advantage of you. But otherwise, you accept and it's just going to download it. Now, if you want to buy an app, you have to make sure, probably on your computer is the best thing, go to Google Wallets and you need to give it some credit card details. I know a lot of people might be a bit cautious about that. I think generally Google are going to look after you. I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then you can install the paid apps. So let's just say I want HD widgets. It tells me that it's £1.49. So when I press that, it might show you some of my credit cards, so I don't particularly want that. But there's, it tells you the price. Underneath it is accept and buy. I just hit that and it's going to charge the card that I've got registered with my Google Wallet. What else to know? You can go specifically look through the categories. So if I go to communication, again I've got top paid, top free. So the top paid one is Falcon Pro, I recommend that. Top free WhatsApp, I recommend that as well. It's a very good messenger program. Top grossing, top new paid, top new free. So even in just the communication category, you get all these extra bits and categories. I think that's all to know about Google Play. You may get a bit frustrated again because Android, it does have to work on many different devices in many different countries. You may come to an app and it says, sorry, not compatible with your phone, or sorry, not available in your region. It can be very annoying. Like if I'm trying to install NFL apps, quite often it says, you know, they're just not visible to me in the Play Store because they don't want me in my country to be able to use them. I don't quite understand why. There is now music. I've just this last month started to use Google Music instead of Spotify. As you can see, look, I've purchased that one. Now that's what I call running. So basically, any device I log into, I can just start listening to that music. Doesn't matter where I am, what device I'm on, or I can use a web browser. I can use a web browser and log into music.google.com or something like that, and I can listen to my music. So it's stored what's called in the cloud. In the cloud basically means in some server in America probably. That's what Dropbox is. I highly recommend an app called Dropbox to you. If I can find it real quick. It's basically cloud storage. You start off with 2 gigabytes. Yeah, whatever I've got on my computer, I have these folders set up. I can see on my phone. I can download things. I've done a video on Dropbox. Go and check it out. It is very handy. I highly recommend it. Best way I think to get files from your computer onto your phone through the cloud, as it's called. So that's Google Play. Okay, so let's also talk a little bit about the hardware. Android covers hundreds of devices. They're all very different. They all have different prices, and you're going to get what you pay for. So let me turn the screen off for a second. This one, as I mentioned earlier, is the Samsung Galaxy S3 LTE version. This, to me, is still the best Android device available. Some might argue the Note 2 is. Oh, I'm killing my battery, look. Some might not argue that the Nexus 4 is. I still believe this is. So, a few bits about it. As a computer, it has a CPU in the middle. They're moving on to quad-core these days. That means within the actual processor unit in the device, there's 4 cores that can work independently. Some HTC devices, and maybe even these actually for that matter, have a 5th core which kind of handles it when the screen goes off like this and it sort of goes to sleep effectively. It uses a lower power 5th core which doesn't run as high speed. But this one, as I say, is quad core. You get some dual core. Some will still even just be single core these days. It's not that we're not that far removed from single core devices. It's not hugely important. Dual core, to be honest, is generally enough. If you see most dual core devices these days, they weren't plenty quick enough. Then one of the next biggest factors is the memory of the device. Now, if we have a look, I'm looking for storage, people. Shout out if you see it. There it is. I beat you to it. So we've got device memory and we've got SD card. It gets a bit confusing with the SD card. We'll come to that in a second. So device memory. I've got 11 gig total within this phone. It's the 16 gig version, but quite a few gig is used up with the ROM, basically. Tough. You can't get to it. Don't moan about it. So in total we have 11 gig. I've still got 7 gig available, and here it tells me roughly what all my different, how it's being used. So applications 2.2 gig, pictures and videos and such, almost a gig, minimal stuff for the rest of it really. SD card, so I've got a 32 gig micro SD card. So yeah, it does say SD, it's a micro SD. I've got 17 gig available. There are apps that would tell you kind of how they're broken down and where it's stored. I recommend them. One called Disk Usage. Now let's have a quick look. I'll give you one tip for free. If you're taking the back off your S3, pop the edge at the top there like I just did, and then run your fingernail. The S3, some people will moan that the Samsungs are made of plastic, and they are made of plastic, but then so are really high quality racing cars, so let's not worry about that. It is quite light and flimsy, but if you put your thumb in and pull it that way, you're going to get cracks and all sorts through the middle, so use your finger around the edges. It's still on because the batteries, I can turn it on still, look, because the battery's still in place. There's my micro SD card. You see that just there? I won't pop it out, but hopefully you know what a micro SD card looks like. And there's my SIM card. Again, I could push down, it should click straight out. It won't come out while the battery's in. Another thing to note, actually, this phone has NFC. In this case, the NFC is actually built into the battery. NFC is short for near field communication, and it lets me tap my phone on things and it can communicate with a tag or something else. So for example, I plug my car into the holder, plug my phone into the car holder, and I've got an NFC tag at the back of the car holder. When they line up, it basically tells the phone to go into car mode, to open up my to increase the media volume, to increase the time, the screen on time, etc, etc. When I get home, I can come in and tap another NFC tag on the wall. It connects me to my Wi-Fi, changes my screen time out back again, turns Wi-Fi on, sorry. All things like that, but you don't need to worry too much about NFC. It's kind of handy, especially in the Samsung phones. You can tap the backs together of two phones to transfer information, to pass contacts, just to link to them. If you're watching a YouTube video, you tap your phone to someone else's, you then tap the screen, it passes them, and it just opens up the video on their screen. Really quite handy if you use it. And the final thing that's very, well, I suppose there are two things. There is the camera. We won't go into a great deal about cameras. Don't get fooled by the megapixels. More isn't necessarily better. On this phone, it's 8 megapixel. It is a pretty good camera. Well, I'd say a very good camera. Sony cameras generally are very good on Sony devices. HTC actually have done some very good cameras. The One X has a superb camera. Again, you're generally going to get what you pay for. If you buy a £200 device, your camera probably isn't going to be as good as a sort of $400 or $500 device like this. But the final thing I was going to talk about was the screen. Now, I don't know quite how well you'll be able to see. The resolution on this is something like 314 pixels per inch of the screen. That's plenty enough. You don't really need much more than about 300. What it means is text is going to be really crisp and clear and sharp, you would hope. So the actual dimensions are something like 1200 high and 700 wide, if I'm being a bit vague, because it's not exactly that. Also, this Samsung device is a Super AMOLED Plus, I think, screen. Generally, you're either going to be an LCD, LED, or AMOLED. The AMOLEDs tend to have really nice dark blacks, like there, where you almost can't see the edge of the screen to the phone, and they tend to have very vivid, bright colours. Some people find that they're too bright; they don't look natural. And so people will prefer the LCD or the Super LCD screens, which sometimes can look a little washed out, but perhaps have a more natural look, and a lot of people think a lot crisper text. I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't know that much detail, but also there's pentile screens and all kind of thing. And pentile is along the lines of a Super AMOLED screen that's pentile means instead of having 3 different colours, all colours are made up of the 3 primary colours, instead of having 3 dots per pixel or 3 different colours, they only have 2, but they're interweaved as such that they can still produce the same sort of looking colours basically, but using not quite as many, not pixels, but whatever the bits within the pixel are. I hope that makes sense. Like I say, I'm not an expert. Even maybe someone else will comment below if they can explain it a bit better than that. So there we go, that's the hardware. You generally get what you pay for. Check out reviews, ask for opinions, hold one in your hand. So go into a Carphone warehouse perhaps, or wherever, phones for you, and try the device in your hand to see how it feels, because you might find an S3 is too big and you want something a bit smaller, the S3 Mini, or you might want a nice huge big Note 2, but try it in your hand first. I really recommend you have a go with it before you buy. Okay, let's move on to something else. I'm just going to really quickly try and show you a little bit of the difference of the launchers. So this is the standard Samsung launcher. Now I've installed a different one. When I press my home button at the bottom, I come up with this. You will quite often might see this. You might tap a link and it says, well, what app do you want to open this link in? You get to choose. So in this case I'm going to say Nova Launcher, but I'm going to say just once. So that means when I press my home button again, it's going to ask me again. So there we go, now we're in Nova Launcher. The wallpaper stays the same. The widgets and everything else that I had set up on Nova are still there. So that's a different launcher. You get different things you can do with different launchers. So like I mentioned, you can change the grid size on the home page. on the screen, home screen. I particularly like that you can slide the bottom bar there, look. And in this case I've got folders in the bottom bar. Over here I've got just regular applications like my dialer. You don't need to see that, come on. So I find that kind of handy. Then there's another launcher I've got, so I press that and I'm going to say, oh, Apex, just once again. Now this was set up with a green theme going on when I had it before, and I was thinking to do it with work. But again, it's this much the same as Nova Launcher. You get some differences. That looks a little bit different at the top, definitely. So, you know, have a play around, have a look on the marketplace what different launchers there are. Don't be afraid to try them. Let me just show you how. So I'm going to go to launch. I'm going to say always. So it tells me then I can clear the default setting by going into Settings, Application Manager, All, and hit Clear Defaults. But right now, anytime I press Home, it's going to stick with Nova. If I open up something else, and then I press Home, it's going to take me back there. So yeah, there are loads of launchers, all have different things that are better or worse. So have a play around. Again, ask opinion. Decide on one that's best for you, really. Okay, one thing I'd recommend, just have a look through your settings. Go rummaging through, look at the more settings, look inside the settings, read what different things do. Quite often people don't realise some of the stuff that they can do, like home screen mode. I can turn it to easy mode. So if this is for, I don't know, if you setting the phone up for your grandmother or your mum or whatever, you might want easy mode. Obviously, I don't. I'm going with basic mode. That's a Samsung thing. That's not necessarily always built into all Android devices. Power saving, again, I think that's a Samsung thing. But yeah, just have a look through your settings. Look inside the settings of different apps that you install. Generally, you get to it with the menu key, so I can get to it from there. Look. Inside the apps, it's normally the menu key as well. And then the only thing I would mention to you again is just about some of the terminology used. So I would hope everyone knows what video calling is by now. I can recommend Google Plus for that. I believe, yeah, in fact, also I know, in fact, Google Talk, which should be on everybody's phone already. That allows video chat. I can press any of those cameras down the side, and that would basically ring the person, but using the front-facing camera. If you can see, it actually is a bit dark. Just up there at the top. Video calling. Use your data connection. So again, we're looking at two different things. One of them is the cell connection on the right-hand side, the triangles. The other one there is the Wi-Fi, which is my data in this case. So if you haven't got 3G, at least, and I would recommend H or H+, you probably don't want to be trying to video call. It doesn't matter how strong your cell signal is, it's not using the cell signal, it's using your data connection. That has its benefits, because it's generally cheaper. If you've got unlimited data, definitely go nuts. It's not costing you anything at all. Likewise, if you use WhatsApp for sending picture messages, that uses your data connection, not your cell connection. So again, if you've got unlimited data, it doesn't cost you a thing. Tethering. You may have heard about tethering. In this oopsie, I didn't want to turn the flashlight on. In this instance, now, how do I turn tethering on? That's a good question. Tethering and portable hotspot. Boom. So it's turned off. I would simply turn that on. It's going to turn my Wi-Fi off, so it's going to disconnect me from my home Wi-Fi, because it's going to use the Wi-Fi to act as, basically I turn it on, I then bring my laptop and I've set it up. Where is it set up? If I tap on it, I think. So it's called Android AP. That's the default here, and it will quite often be the default. So, well, oopsie daisy. So it even says the explanation there. Turn on the Wi-Fi on your device, find Android AP, connect to it, basically. There's my password right now. I don't mind giving that because I'll be changing it if ever I use it. And now my laptop or my tablet will use the data connection, and that is the data connection, not the Wi-Fi connection. So even though I'm at home, my Wi-Fi is off and I'm using the data connection of my 3 SIM. But it will use that for the laptop or the tablet. It's basically passing it on to that device. We've got the notification in there. Tapping that would bring me back to this. So even if I come back out to my home screen, keep going. There I am on my home screen, but it's still set in my notification bar, look. I can't dismiss that. I didn't say really. I can dismiss these ones just by flicking them off to the side. I can't dismiss that because it's like a permanent notification until I go in and turn it back off. So that's what tethering is. It just basically means using your phone as a pass-through for other devices. Now be careful, because not all carriers allow tethering. Let's turn my Wi-Fi back on. Everything's green, everything's blue. I'm connected back to Google services. Yeah, not all providers allow tethering. There are ways, I believe, that they can tell that you're tethering as well. So you might want to check. Generally, if you're on a contract on 3, you're probably okay. Most of the others might get a little bit uppity. You might have heard about routing. Routing is where basically you sort of push aside sort of safety aspects and you allow yourself into the deep, dark bits of the phone that they don't really want you to mess with. Now, the reason they don't want you to mess with them is because you can mess up your phone big style. Not easily, but it's possible. So just be careful if you're going to go ahead and root your device. First of all, because you can often cause damage. It normally means flashing things in recovery. Oh goodness, I need to do another video on recovery at some point. Recovery is... well, let's not get into that. Look it up if you do want. If you're interested, if you found an app that says you need to be rooted to use this and you really need to use it, I just really recommend reading up a fair bit about it before you begin, because you can do damage to your phone. You can what's called brick it, which means it won't turn on. You can't use it. An idea of things that I mean, the most commonly used one is titanium backup. Only available on rooted devices, or only works on rooted devices. So basically, I go to here. Let me just clear all that. These are all of my apps, everything that's installed on the phone, pre-installed things I've installed myself. I can change, so narrow it down to just things that, just things that I've installed. Or if I was to look at things that just came on the phone, a system thing, so AllShare, which is something that lets me pass things to my TV. If I decide, actually, I don't want that, I can freeze it or uninstall it. And if you're not rooted, you can't do that. It's stuck in the untouchable area. So a lot of people like to root just so they can get rid of the bloatware. There is quite a lot of stuff that you might not want, basically. You know, digital clock, if I don't want it, I want to kick it out. You can only do that if you're rooted. Titanium backup, the way to go. That's it, really. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. Hopefully me or someone else that knows what they're doing can give you some tips. I hope I've not bored you too rigid. I've tried to cover pretty much everything and keep it basic. Good luck, and subscribe if I've been helpful. My name's Andy. Take care, guys.